I know we can do the invocation and get started.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you, Anu. So we will continue the discussion of this wonderful text, Atmabodha. Atmabodha, as you know, it is essentially the knowledge about ourselves, and probably the most important knowledge about the world. We might be knowing everything else, but if we don't know who we are and what we are, how can we live an efficient life or a meaningful life? So this content of this textbook is very important. And we were reviewing the verse 52 last week. And the topic was from 48 to 53, the characteristics of an enlightened person. So, I know if I could request you to chant verse 48 to 53 in the beginning, and then we can proceed. So we covered up to 52, but I know that we could not cover the verse 52 in detail. So we may pick up the thread from there, and we will cover 52 and 53, and then we will proceed to the next verses.
So from 58, right?
No, you can start from 48 to 53. That is the topic. That is the topic of enlightened, characteristics of enlightened person.
Rajesh, correct your name, please.
Sure.
Always expect Rajesh Menon to check that.
I know you can chant.
Yeah. Atmaivedam jagat sarvam Atmanyonyanna vidyate Rudo yadvadghatadini Svatmanam sarvamikshate. Jivan muktastu tadvidvan purvopadhigunan styajet Satchidanandarupatvat Bhaved Bhramarakitavat. Jivan muktastu tadvidvan Purve padhigunan styajet Satchidanandarupatvat Bhaved Bhramarakitavat. Titva mohanavam hatva ragadveshadirākshasan yogi shanti samayukta atma ramo virajati. Titva mohanavam hatva raga रागद्वेषादिराक्षसान् योगी शान्तिसमायुक्तः आत्मा रामो विराजते। बाह्यानित्या सुखासक्तिं हित्वात्मसुखनिर्वृतः बाह्यानित्यसुखासक्तिं हित्वात्मसुखनिर्वृतः घटस्थदीपवत् स्वस्थः स्वान्तारेव प्रकाशते। बाह्यानित्यसुखासक्तिं हित्वात्मसुखनिर्वृतः घटस्थदीपवत् स्वस्थः स्वान्तारेव प्रकाशते. So, should I continue?
Yeah.
One more, right?
One more.
उपादिस्थोऽपि तद्धर्मैः अलिप्तो व्योमवन्मुनिः सर्वविन्मूढवित्तिष्ठे असक्तो वायुवच्चरेत्। उपादिस्थोऽपि तद्धर्मैः अलिप्तो व्योमवन्मुनिः सर्वविन्मूढवित्तिष्ठे असक्तो वायुवच्चरेत्।
One more.
उपाधिविलयात् विष्णौ निर्विशेषं विषेन्मुनिः जले जलं वियद्व्योम्नि तेजस्तेजसि वा यथा। उपाधिविलयात् विष्णौ निर्विशेषं विषेन्मुनिः जले जलं वियद्व्योम्नि तेजस्तेजसि वा यथा.
Thank you, Anu. That's really good. So, we were discussing the characteristics of the enlightened person. It's not abstract, right? So, why these characteristics are described is because it gives us the destination. And also, we talked about in Bhagavad Gita, what comes to naturally for an enlightened person is to be emulated by a practitioner. So we saw some beautiful verses, and verse 52 we saw, and 53 also is going to discuss the characteristics of an enlightened person. But let's go back to 52 and try to understand 52 and 53 together. Please pay clear attention and ask any questions then and there, because we need to make sure that we have good clarity. And this clarity is important for our study of Upanishads. So this verses 52, because the brilliance of Shankaracharya really comes out in these verses. 52 talks about a person who is getting Jivan Mukti. And the verse 53 is going to talk about the enlightened person, Videha Mukti. So these are the two characteristics or 2 points highlighted in this verse. So verse 52 is going to talk about the Jivan Mukti, and verse 53 is going to talk about the idea of Videha Mukti. So we just need to have some clarity on what is Jivan Mukti and what is Videha Mukti. Anybody want to take a shot? What is the difference between Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti? There is only a subtle difference, but it's important to understand this.
One is just before you pass on, and the other one is that while you're alive, you get the mukti.
Slight difference. Yeah, that is true, Gina. But only difference is, let's say that a person is born here in this world. That implies something. That birth means, I'm going back to the karma theory a little bit. I know that it is going to take a little bit time, but we are going to talk about that karma theory a little bit so that this idea is very clear. Why a person is born in this world? The birth of a person could be of two reasons. One is because of his or her karma. What would be this exception?
Avatara.
Avatara, exactly. So an avatara means the universal intelligence or Ishvara, out of his or her own will, come to this world. That is what is called avatara. The avatara is not bound by karma. The avatara can choose where he wants to born, what form he wants to be born, and he is not bound by karma. Whereas everything else, everybody else, born because of karma. So 99.99999% of the people's birth is because of karma. If you go back to our karma theory, which is a complicated theory, what does the karma theory tells? There are three major types of karma. One is called sanchita karma. The other one is called agami karma. And the other one is called
Prarabdha karma.
prarabdha karma. Right. So at the end of somebody's life, if he or she is not liberated or enlightened, what is going to happen? At the end of his or her life, his prarabdha karma of that life comes to an end. That is the time somebody passes away. Somebody's physical body comes to an end. At that point of time, what is going to happen? From the pool of this prarabdha karma, sanchita karma, because the current birth was because the previous birth, a subset of the sanchita karma was taken, and that becomes the prarabdha, and that is why I born here. And in this life, there are two things. One is I acquire new karma in this life, and that karma is known as agami karma. Whereas in my sanchita karma pool, a lot of karma remains. So at the end of my life, what is going to happen? My new sanchita karma becomes the previous sanchita karma plus the agami karma. Makes sense, right? We talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
And then from that new pool of this sanchita karma, which is the baggage I carried from the previous life, plus the karmas I accumulated in this life, becomes the new bag of sanchita karma. And from that new bag of sanchita karma, a set of karmas will be selected, and that becomes the prarabdha of my next life. And that is because of that prarabdha karma, I born. Clear? This is probably the most complicated karma theory. Now the question is, we talked about this a lot. Is the karma, agami karma is going to skew or influence more on the next birth? Krishna said, yes, if that karma, if one intent is very much predominate in my life. For example, if I spend this life entirely for music, definitely the next life would be in that direction. It will set the direction. If there is a one predominant activity I do, if I am meditator, naturally the next life would have some weighted average of this. That is the only indication we have. But what exactly is the algorithm by which you're pulling out the sanchita karmas, means the prarabdha karma, we don't know. But we know that it would be a subset. Where I was going is a different direction. We need to understand that this prarabdha karma is the reason for my birth. And if it is an avatara, it is the will of Ishvara. Now, 99.99% of the people are born because of prarabdha karma. The very fact that I am born because of prarabdha karma implies something. What is that? I am not yet liberated.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Fair.
You're
Yeah.
with me, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So now what happens? I am born to this world as unenlightened. And now I'm doing karma. I can do spiritual practice. There is a possibility that during the life of my current birth, I can come to know the truth. So if I come to know the truth during the span of this current life, while I am alive, that mukti, that liberation is known as
Jivan Mukti.
Jivan Mukti. Is it clear? Now it should be crystal clear. Now, and there is another mukti we talked in Bhagavad Gita, which is Krama Mukti, meaning I have not yet enlightened, but I did a practice of meditation, strong meditation. Raj means this yoga practices a lot. So I'm not yet enlightened, but I have a pure mind, stable mind, and I exited my life out of my will because of some practices, and they go to some higher plane of existence. Technically, they call it as Brahmaloka, and from there they hear the teaching from Brahmaji, and they get the mukti there, and that mukti is known as Krama Mukti.
Krama.
So we talked about the Jivan Mukti and we talked about Krama Mukti. Atmabodha, Shankaracharya not even touching about the Krama Mukti. That's not his area of interest, by the way. So he's only going with what can be done here and now. So that is, you can see Shankara's style. It is very clear. And now, a Jivan Mukta, when you get that Jivan Mukti, he continues to exist in his body. And there will be a time he will come to an end of his physical body or the physical birth. That life comes to an end. And that time, means there are two possibilities, in fact, three possibilities when somebody comes to an end. If he was not enlightened in his life and he is not a high practicing yogi, what is going to happen? Again, he will reborn based upon the karmas, based upon the new pool of prarabdha karma, and he will reborn. And if he is an advanced meditator, he may get Krama Mukti. We talked about in this Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, right? Shukla Gati and Krishna Gati. Now, what is the third possibility? If he had attained the Jivan Mukti in his life, when his life comes to an end, what is going to happen? He won't be reborn. Instead, he will transcend into a different order of reality and he will identify himself, or his identification will be with the absolute reality. So a Jivan Mukta, when his life come to an end, he enters into a different stage, and that stage is known as Videha Mukti. A Jivan Mukta, when he gives up his body, there is no more rebirth for him. And that mukti, that stages of mukti, like the first stage means he is still alive. And the second stage means once his body is gone, what happens to him? No more rebirth. He merges with the absolute, and that state is known as Videha Mukti. So a person who attains enlightenment in his life, he will have to go through these two stages. The first is Jivan Mukti, and the other one is Videha Mukti. Idea is clear, and that's exactly what is the theme of these two verses. Verse 52 is going to talk about Jivan Mukti, and verse 53 is Deha Mukti. What is the difference?
Rajesh, one question.
Yeah.
So there is no mukti that will happen at the time of the death.
At
There
the
is-
time of death, no.
No,
It has
nothing,
to be-
right? Okay.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be prior to that. At the time of death, what they call as the mukti is the krama mukti. That's it.
Got it. That's okay. But I'm just thinking that it is good to have been enlightened and have a long prarabdha than having it closer to prarabdha, closer to the Videha Mukti
Exactly. It will be beneficial for the society.
society. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
but when you're not born anymore, Rajesh, the reason you continue after Jivan Mukti is because of your prarabdha karma.
Exactly. It is
Then
because
when
of
so when prarabdha karma is exhausted, you
Correct.
had already achieved Jivan Mukti. So
Correct.
that's where you receive the Videha Mukti.
Correct.
So then, isn't that true? When you die, you are now Videha Mukta.
Correct. You're there.
Okay.
Means what exactly is dying? It's not you, it's your body. Because
Body
he's
dies
already
in the body.
Exactly. That's the difference. And now this is very easy, but the depth is very big. So let's try to analyze through these words. And here is what you see the brilliance of Shankara. How poetically he brings these things out. And let's try to see. So the first verse, right? We saw this last week, but let's re-study this because I wanted to cover this last week at the end, but we had a long discussion at the end. We couldn't cover this. So he tells Upadhi stopi tat dharmair. It means Upadhihi sta api. Upadhihi means what? Equipments or gadgets or instruments. What exactly he is referring here as gadgets or instruments?
Body.
It's my body, it's my mind also, because it is the hardware and it is the software, both. Upadhihi sta api, even with upadhi. The characteristics of Jivan Mukta is what? The Jivan Mukta has the upadhi. Now, this is very deep. So let's go back to our stock example, which is the Sapna Drishtanta. This one example you have to study because this is the example which is going to clarify the whole orders of reality and mukti and everything. So let's go back to the same example. You are lying down in the bed and you are in a dream. So the person who is lying down on the bed versus the person on the dream, they are in two orders of reality, isn't it? The person in the dream lives his life in the dream space, dream time, with a dream body and a dream mind. And we were joking about the example. That person is in Gangotri. When we look at the one side, he sees brilliant Himalayas, mighty Himalayas. On the other side, he sees the Ganges, he sees the trees, animals, everything. What exactly is the material cause of all these things? It is the person lying on the bed, his mind. Swami Vivekananda brilliantly coined a term called mind stuff. Now, when the person is in the dream, he transacts with the world. And now imagine the dream becomes a lucid dream. This is a brilliant example, right? When that dream becomes lucid, what happens? Where exactly that I stands at that point of time? In the dream world. What exactly is the body I have to interact with that dream world? It is the dream body. So even though I realize that it is a dream, I am literally constrained a little bit by the dream body, dream space, and dream time. So like that, when the person gets enlightened, he still is a little bit constrained, because even though he realizes that his order of reality is in, it means his true nature is in another order of reality, but I'm staying in a different order of reality. I am in the Vyavaharika, relative reality, but I know that because of that enlightenment, I know that I am truly speaking, just like a lucid dream. I know that I'm in the dream world, but my real identity is different. This is only a dream. Like that, I know that this Vyavaharika world, the relative reality is temporary. I'm transacting here. And naturally, I'm constrained by the equipments given to me at this point of time. So he tells, Upadhistopi tat dharma. Even though I am constrained, I am with the equipments, and these equipments has its own characteristics. What is the characteristics? If you go and pinch an enlightened person, is he going to get the sensation of pain? Naturally, he's going to get the sensation of pain.
Yeah.
If you hit him, he's going to feel the pain. So that is what exactly Shankara highlights. So Upadhi staha api tat dharma. The upadhis are going to follow its own characteristics. But what is the difference between an enlightened person and a normal person? He tells, Alipto Vyomavan Munihi. Alipto, he is not affected, right? He is not tainted. He is not affected. So when the body gets pain, it's only a pain. There is no sufferings. For a normal person, what is going to happen? There will be a pain and there will be a psychological response towards that pain. And that pain is what is known as
Suffering.
So for an enlightened person, means some people I heard, right? Once you get enlightenment, you don't have any pain at all, or no, you means he won't eat. Swami Chinmayananda, actually Nancy Patchen wrote a brilliant book on Swami Chinmayananda, Journey of a Master. In that book, she tells, in fact, somebody also told, Swamiji, when he came back to his ancestral home, he was sleeping. And when the neighbors came in, they wondered, a Swamiji can sleep? And then he used to joke, right? Can he eat? Of course, you have to eat, you have to sleep, you may cry, you may laugh. All that is, what is that? Upadhi dharma. It is the characteristics of the body. It is the characteristics of the equipments given to you. So now the question is he become old age? His hair turns gray. Of course it will. If he is healthy, he will be looks young, but that doesn't mean that he can be always young. Upadhisto api dharma alipto. So even though the upadhis will follow its own dharma, what is the dharma of the body? The body has that sixfold modification. Asti, jayate, varthate, viparinamate, apakshiyate pranashyati. All these characteristics will be part of the body, but he will be unaffected. In the dream, if the dream is a lucid dream, do you worry about your old age? Has anybody of you had the lucid dream?
I had.
Good. I also had. So lucid dream, those who had the lucid dream, it's a beautiful experience. You use yours in the dream space, you're interacting with the dream, but you know that it's a dream.
And
You can
feel-
even continue in a lucid dream state, you know.
So it's a nice way of seeing the dream. So I know that means Rajesh Menon has never, he don't have dream at all. Even forget about lucid dream. There are people like that also, right, Rajesh? So
Yeah.
this idea, so means look at the depth of the meaning. Shankara was very clear. Upatistopi tat dharma alipto vyomavan muni, like space. What is the characteristics of the space? When you go to one place, it's beautiful smell. Another place, it is stinky. Is that fragrance is the characteristics of the space? No, it's the air. The space is unaffected. So that is the example given. Like a vyoma, like the space, you are unaffected. Whether it is dark or bright, whether it is stinky or fragrance. Sometimes it appears as blue, sometimes it appears as red. No, space is not affected. It is all the characteristics of the upati. Like that, the body may go old, the body may get sick, the body may feel like eating something, but I am different. He is unaffected. And this is the characteristics of whom? Jivan Mukta. And then he tells, Sarvavit Muthavat Nishthed. He is Sarvavit. Vid means knowing. Sarvavit means all knowing. It is the figurative expression used to call an enlightened person. Now, so this expression needs to be understood. When you say an enlightened person is all knowing, let's say that you get enlightenment tomorrow. And if I ask you to speak Chinese, can you do that?
No.
No, that's not what it means. It means he knows the fundamental reality of the universe. That's all. That doesn't mean that he will be able to quote all the Schrodinger equation, or he can speak all the languages in the world, or he can understand how many suns are in the universe. No, that's not the all knowing. The all knowing means you know the foundation of the universe. What is the ultimate reality? He knows the ultimate reality of the universe. But there is somebody who knows everything, and that is Ishvara. See, that is the difference between a jiva, an enlightened jiva versus the Ishvara. The Ishvara, again the Ishvara is in the immanent order of reality, not in the transcendent order. Ishvara is the total body, the total mind, and the total intelligence. And it is because of this intelligence of the Ishvara, this universe functions. But the individual, when he says Sarvavit, he knows his true nature. That's all it means. These are all misunderstanding. I've read comment. I'm just telling that I was reading one commentary of Atmabodha, and he said he knows everything in the universe. No, that's not what it means. These are all misinterpretations. So he knows the ultimate truth. That's all. Now, then Sarvavit Muthaviddishte. Muthavat means, again the commentary I saw like like act like a fool. He won't act like a fool, but mutavat means deluded. Deluded means like he may eat, he may sleep, he may, means it's like his real nature is the Brahman, the reality. But when you look at him, mutavat nishthed, it appears that he is like an individual, not like the total. So Jivan Mukta Purusha, he may get sick, he may get hungry, he will have hungry, he will have thirst, he will eat, his body will change. So it looks like he is like a deluded person, a normal person, looks like, but his knowledge is different. But what is his characteristics? Aliptaha. Even though he looks like an ordinary person, he will transact with the world normally. But what is that? Asattu. He will be completely non-binding because he knows his real nature. Vayuvat charit. He will move like air. What is the characteristics of air? Air will not stay in one place because it's beautiful. What is that scientific law? When there is atmospheric difference in pressure, air will move normally. That's it. He is unattached. So just like Vayu, air, which moves freely according to the law of nature, there is no attachment. Brilliant verse. Looks very innocent verse, but this is, you have to understand that this verse is referring the Jivan Mukta. So, Upadistopi yat dharma, alipto vyomavan munihi, sarvavit mutavit tishtet, asakto vayuvat charit. Upati staha api. Even though he is constrained, he has the upati, and the upadis will follow their own dharma. What is that? Old age, hunger, thirst, everything. Even though he is constrained by the upadis, and the upadis will follow their own dharma, he will be aliptaha. He is not tainted like space. And then, even though he knows his true nature, which is beyond space and time and everything, but he looks like he is a limited person with 6 feet height, or means 5 feet height, or this much weight and this much color. All that is there. So he looks like a normal person, looks like a deluded person, but he is full. So now, please remove the idea, right? An enlightened person, people in pictures and all, what do they show? They just show like a glow around head. Nothing. Those things are nothing. And this comes from an enlightened master, not a normal person. This is the brilliance of Shankara. Look at the clarity. Sometimes you won't find even in Upanishads this clarity. It's beautiful. It's the brilliance of the master. Again, I'm going to say one more book. It's in Malayalam, Atmabodha Shatakam. You can see the same clarity. Any questions?
Okay. I always wondered, once they are enlightened, how do they feel like writing, and like they are already with the God? So the clarity that I can understand, but still, how do they?
Papi, right? Some question kartum arhasi. Like Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, Krishna tells, an enlightened master, just like Sakta means, what is that verse, Anu? Sakta karmanya vidvamsaha yatha kuruvan. Like that, there is a verse.
Okay.
Yeah. So just like an attached person work hard in the world, this enlightened person work hard in the world, but for a saktaha, he has agendas. But this is agendaless, and he has only one agenda: loka sangraha, the benefit of the humanity, not humanity, entire world, universe.
Rajesh,
Yeah.
as I was saying earlier, he has to also still exhaust his prarabdha karma.
Yeah.
Right? That is the rest of the life. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So because the prarabdha karma will continue. And that is why he has this body.
Why can't his knowledge or jnanam burn the prarabdha karma? Jnana,
No, prarabdha karma is already happened. It's like an arrow that is gone out of the bow.
oh,
So it cannot change. It cannot be changed. It's happened. And in a way, it is good, as Gina said. Like, say, Ramana Maharshi, if his prarabdha, his knowledge would have burned his prarabdha, we won't have got this. Shankara, why not we go for it? Shankara started writing these things. If Shankara was not there, how would we study? So this is part of the universal order. So Shankara started writing these books at the age of 9. And by the age of 18, he completed all his commentaries. So this book would have been composed between the age of 9 and 18. And from 18 to 32, he traveled 2 times to the length and the breadth of the India by walking. And then he left his body. At the age of 32, he passed away.
So Rajesh,
Yeah.
If a Jivan Mukta person knows that he has achieved Jivan Mukti, right?
Yeah.
So then won't his attitude change? I mean, why would he look like a deluded person?
No, he is not a deluded person, but for the other people, when looks like, that is the word he used, right? So for other people, what is their idea? This person has still limited body size. When you look at Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, people can say that, okay, he had cancer. His hair turned gray. He eats food. So just like a normal person interacts in the world, his body also will have its own limitation. The body will have pain. The body will have old age. That's all it means. So his body, when you look from outside, it's hard for some, means you see him as an ordinary person, but he is not an ordinary person. He's an extraordinary person.
And one's interaction with such a person would definitely
Reveal that. Yes.
reveal.
Right. Absolutely.
how?
But of course, the other person has to know, right?
Has to be at that level.
Yeah, because see, I heard a beautiful story in the life of Einstein. Einstein was in Princeton University. So he took a cab. He was not making fun. He was just joking. That's it. So the cab driver, who didn't even study the basic school education, he said like, "Oh, you are the Einstein who means I heard that you discovered the theory of relativity. It's a big thing." So Einstein tells like, "I don't know." Like, he cannot even appreciate what Einstein has discovered. So when he praises Einstein for something which he cannot comprehend, mind you, this is not a joke or like a seeing people down. For example, if somebody asks me economics, that's one area I have no idea, right? So how can I say that somebody discovered something and won the Nobel Prize? I have no idea about economics. If I talk to that person, how much I understand? Nothing. That's what a person who is extrovert, such a person may look at Vivekananda and say that he is a fool. Just read that interactions between Rockefeller and Vivekananda. Initially, Rockefeller had that attitude, but changed completely when because he had that open mind to accept. That's all. So these masters are so powerful. Like an enlightened master, if you interact with him, at least if you have a little bit of sensitivity, you will get it. And I was told, actually, Swami Shantananda used to tell me this story. He was a traveling secretary of Swami Chinmayananda. Once Swami Chinmayananda was getting into the airport lounge of Hong Kong airport. There was not a single person who knows about him. But if we entered into the lounge, everybody stood up without knowing what it is. That is the charisma of these people. They may look very simple, but you will get that positive energy. Vivekananda, right? Again, Chicago addresses, simple looking Swami. When he went to the stage, when he spoke his first word, there was a standing ovation. Like it was like almost a minute, because the total duration of his speech was 5 minutes, and 1 minute it was a standing ovation. People say that it is because he used the sisters and brothers of America. Definitely not. One expression cannot bring that much of collective consciousness. It is his charisma. And Vivekananda's life, you can see that throughout. He came to USA, you know that. You all know the story, means the facts, right? So he came in, he knew that this World Parliament of Religion was 6 months later. He didn't have money, he didn't have place, he didn't have any reference letter. He thought, okay, from New York it is very expensive, so let me go to Boston so that I can reduce the cost of living. So he took a train. Very accidentally, he interacted with a professor at Harvard. And in 5 minutes, he got it. And he gave the recommendation, reference. See, this is the charisma. Lord Buddha, he said the same. You can see Christ. You can see all these masters. Look at Ramana Maharshi. Such an ordinary person. That is the enlightened master. They may not be good orators sometimes, but what they speak, it will travel. And Avatara also is like that. See, Krishna spoke to how many people? One person. What he spoke to one person, even in 21st century, we are sitting and studying. Christ spoke to how many people? 12 people. That's it. A self-help motivational speaker. While in the auditorium, he may enchant us. But after the conversation, when you go out, how much you can collect? How much you can take home? Very, very, very minimal. Yep. Somebody had a question?
Rajesh, I'm sure you're familiar with Nisargadatta Maharaj. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Again, he had a BD shop or something in Bombay, right? And but he was such a realized Jivan Mukta Purusha.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the Upanishad, the story is there, right? A butcher. The sage was sent to a butcher for learning Brahma Vidya. So this is what it is. You cannot, from his look or profession or from his caste or religion or color, you cannot say. So the physical appearance is not a measure of an enlightened person, Jivan Mukta. Shankara wanted to be very clear. And it is true, like Shankara wrote this in his Manisha Panchakam also, right? It was very clear. It doesn't matter. Chandalostu sati dvijostu gururityek esha manisha mama. It doesn't matter whether he is a Chandala or a Brahmana. He is my teacher. That should be the attitude. Okay, so let's continue. Anu, could you chant 53?
उपाधिविलयाद् विष्णो निर्विशेषं विशेन्मुनिः जले जलं वियद्व्योम्नि तेजस्ते तेजस्तेजसि वा यथा.
So the previous verse was talking about the Jivan Mukta, and now this verse is going to talk about the Videha Mukti. So he tells Upadhi Vilayat Vishnu. Upadhi Vilayan means when you get freed from the Upadhi. Think about that. When the dream comes to an end, what happens to the dreamer? The dreamer merges with the
Baker.
creator. Who is the creator of the dream world?
He himself.
The waker, right? The waker, or is the not only the creator of the dream world, dream person, but the creator of the dream world and the dream time. So when the dreamer get out of his dream gadgets or the dream upadhis, the body and the dream mind, he enters into the waking state. Like that, even if it is a lucid dream, after the dream, what is going to happen? I get my real identity. So, Upadhi Vilayat Vishnu. So, once the Upadhis are destroyed, simple language, when a Jivan Mukta dies, when the Upadhis are destroyed, when the body, the mind, everything is destroyed, what happens to the Jivan Mukta? Vilayat Vishnu. Vilayat Vishnu and Nirvishesha Vished. Nirvishesha Vished means completely. Vished means enters into. Vishnu. Who is Vishnu?
All pervading.
All pervading. All pervading reality, which is Brahma, absolute reality. So please don't think it is a Lord Vishnu. It is Vyapaneti iti Vishnu, that which pervades everywhere, which is the absolute reality. So when the Jivan Mukta's Upadhi Vilayan, when that Upadhis, the body, the mind, get destroyed, when he passes away, he merges with the absolute reality. And this is what is known as Videha Mukti. The previous verse was talking about Jivan Mukti. So, Upadhi Vilayat Vishnu Nirvishesham Vishet Munihi. Munihi means the Manana Shilavan, the enlightened person, the Jivan Mukta here. So, the Jivan Mukta, when his Upadhis, the instruments get destroyed, he completely enters into the absolute reality. Enters or figuratively, right? The dreamer is never away from the waker. The dreamer gets his real identity. That's all. Because these are all language is confusing sometimes. You are not transforming, right? So this we need to understand. This is not a Parinamavada, a modification theory. A dreamer is not transformed into the waker. In fact, there was only the waker. The dreamer was a projection, right? So, see, if you look at philosophically, there are two schools. One is called Asatkaryavada. The second one is called Satkaryavada. So, Asatkaryavada, even in our Hindu tradition, it is there. Like all these Vaishnavites, etc., follow that. They say the world was created by the God. That is their theory. Satkaryavada means the world was emerged out of the God. And even within Satkaryavada, there are two schools. One is called Parinamavada. The God became the world. That is Parinamavada. Just like a like a worm becoming a butterfly, transforming. That is one vada. But there is a different vada called Vivarta vada, because the dreamer or the world is never away from the God or the absolute reality. It's a projection. So here that is the idea, Vivarta vada. So in that, just look at this. The dreamer is never away. The dreamer has not become the waker. Only thing you can say that the dreamer realized his true identity as the waker. That's it. Because the dream was only a projection. So that is the difference. So Upati Vilayat Vishnu Nirvishesham Vishet Munihi. And he gives 3 examples. Shankara gives 3 examples. One is Jale Jalam. Jale Jalam Vyat. Vyom means Vyayat Vyomani. Tejas Tejasi Vayatha. 3 examples. Jale Jalam. Imagine that there is a pot, mud pot, and that mud pot is immersed in a big lake. You can see the water in the mud pot as different from the water in the lake. But when the mud pot breaks, what is going to happen? The water in the pot becomes, in fact, it merges with the overall water. So just like that, the consciousness, which appears to be pretty much localized within my body and the mind, it just merges with that universal consciousness. That's it. The second example, Vyat Vyomani, like the air. Let's say that, again, that same example. Let's say that there is a pot, and inside the pot there is a space. And when the pot gets destroyed, in fact, there is only one space. There is only one space. The Upadhi gave an appearance, underline the word appearance of some difference, but there was no difference at all. And finally, Tejas Tejasi Vayatha, light. When the sunlight is there, you are inside a house. You may feel that the light inside the room is different from the light outside. But if you just remove the house, what happens? In fact, there was only one light. When I was in the room, I thought that, okay, this light is only in the room. So these 3 examples. The difference is because of the Upadhi, and in fact, there is no Upadhi. And when that Upadhi comes to an end, what happens? You merges with your real identity. So this verse clearly talks about the Videha Mukti, and the first verse, the previous verse, 52, talks about Jivan Mukti. So with this, we complete the topic of the characteristics of an enlightened person. And now we go to the next topic, which is the knowledge of the absolute reality, which is 54 to 64. Knowledge of the absolute reality, which is Brahman. But I wanted to spend a little bit time on these 2 verses just to bring out the difference between this Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. There is no, you cannot get more clearer description anywhere. It is beautifully brought out in these 2 verses by Shankaracharya. Any comments? Any questions?
When a Jivan Mukta is identified with God, right? So
the Jivan Mukta is already has the identity, just like a lucid dream. So in that lucid dream, I know that my real identity is different, but still I'm transacting with the dream world, isn't it? That is the difference. But when the dream comes to an end, I'm no more limited by the dream space, dream time, dream body, and the dream mind. That is the difference.
So Jivan Mukta is kind of a union with the absolute, or no?
He knows his identity, but still he is in that different order of reality. That is the difference.
Oh, different order of reality.
Right? Absolutely. He is confined to this world. That's it.
So that's
So at the best, while alive, what you can get is Jivan Mukti. That's it.
So Rajesh, in this verse, Sankara doesn't use the word Videha Mukti.
No, that is what we need to bring out. But he just he didn't use the word Jivan Mukti or Videha Mukti, but the description is exactly that. So,
but those are valid words in the
these are the technical term used in the scriptures. But instead of saying that Jivan Mukti and and asking people for their own interpretation, he explained what is Jivan Mukti with brilliant verses.
Okay.
So would an avatara have hunger and all that?
Of course, avatara, yes. I mean, avatara can choose not to have the hunger. Avatara is completely in control because he is Ishvara. That is relatively different. Avatara is not bound by karma. Avatara is Ishvara's will. So Krishna, we are going to see Avatara in the next chapter of the Gita. We completed chapter 3, right? Chapter 4, that is the key concept. This chapter 4 starts with what is Avatara. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanurbhavati bharata apyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam sajarmiham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. We are going to see that. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so just an announcement. Tomorrow morning, Pandit Mishraji is joining the yoga class. So he's a very good yoga teacher. He is the one who taught Hatha Yoga to all our teachers. In fact, Jeena, Avanit, Deepthi, all the people, Madhu, everybody. So he will be joining from Brazil. So if you have any questions on Hatha Yoga, asanas, pranayama, it's a good forum to ask. 7 o'clock, I'll post the link in this group. So, any other questions or comments? So Sunday we won't have Bhagavad Gita class, and we will start chapter 4 from the next week. Next Tuesday we will continue Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam. Again, the verses we are covering in that portion is exactly the same thing, like the two orders of reality. Probably that is the place Krishna brilliantly differentiates between the transcendent and the immanent. And understanding that is very important to understand Ishvara and the reality, because there is a lot of confusion around that topic. So we'll continue that topic. And one more announcement, like please block your time on 20th and 21st. It is International Day of Yoga. There will be a series of programs on the subject yoga. Great teachers will be joining, including Dr. Nagendra, etc. So there will be specific discussions on the major yoga, because we already talked about what is yoga. Somebody will be giving, Swami Chidananda Puri will be giving that overall framework, and then there will be talks on Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, all where exactly it fits in. And then there will be separate sessions on this Ashtanga Yoga every step. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Dharana, Samadhi. Again, means to Rohitji's point earlier, these sessions cannot go beyond certain level because it is for the public. We will discuss that in depth when we go with Yoga Sutra, but definitely a good overview. Never, you cannot, what we covered today, it cannot be done in a public forum, because it will
lose everyone.
Confuses everybody. It is going to confuse everybody. It has to be systematically built in.
So what days is it, Rajesh?
20th, 21st. I think 19th and 20th. International.
Okay, that's a Saturday, Sunday.
Saturday,
Right?
Sunday. Yeah.
Okay, 19th.
Different sessions will be there in different time zones. Whatever you can listen, you can listen. But I would suggest to listen Dr. H.R. Nagendra. Actually, Swami Swarupananda will be coming live. Swami Swarupananda is the head of Chinmaya Mission, Global Chinmaya Mission. He's a wonderful speaker. We're trying to get Swami Tadatmananda also. Swami Sarvapayananda is not available, so unfortunately. But he is going to come back in September, and he is going to give a extensive talk, an in-depth talk on Raja Yoga. These are announcements. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So Anu, could you please chant the Purnamada?
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om.
Just one more comment. This transcendent and immanent and these two orders of reality is an extremely important topic. If you know that, this mantra becomes clear to you. Purnamada Purnamidam. Otherwise, it appears to be very confusing. This is full, that is full. What is full? And if you take the one from the other, nothing remains. So we'll talk about this. Somebody asked me about this mantra. And one more question, answering one more thing. Somebody asked me which book I read for Atmabodha. Answer is very simple. Atmabodha by Swami Chinmayananda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Yeah, that book. That's the book.